everyone wants this easy one button. They think, okay, like AI can do everything. Fly a drone, but you don't have anything useful at that point. So what you actually need is like actual deliverables. And our software is going to help you with tools that do supply what your effectiveness is. We do have to embrace it. We do have to figure out more ways to use it. You have to keep the human in the loop. That's like really my big thing about it. And here's the reason why, is because
BRITON VOORHEES of Virtual Surveyors. Thanks for stopping by, man.
yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.
Right here in the fray of early GeoWeek.
I know.
Glad to have you. So what do you guys here showcase? Anything in particular, or?
So Virtual Surveyor, we're a drone surveying software. Yeah, we have one product that's called Virtual Surveyor. So we're coming out basically showing the software to new clients, existing ones, providing feedback. Software, basically, kind of the gist of it.
Yeah.
You need to get your drone data, right? Like what happens, with drone data is, you might fly a drone, but you don't have anything useful at that point. So what you actually need is, a lot of times people might want CAD information, but they need like actual deliverables. That's what we can provide. You take that all the way from the beginning, could be the photos, could be the LiDAR, all the way to CAD, all the way to like analytics, whatever it is at the end of the day you actually need.
Okay, excellent. So drones specifically, I thought I'd seen a LinkedIn post that you guys were featuring something that it wasn't just Virtual Surveyor.
No, Virtual Surveyor,
we're just unleashed within it, like a subset of the program, or
So we're one trick pony. Yeah, when I say Virtual Surveyor, we include like Terrain Creators, like a photogrammetry app that
there you go.
But we include it as part of the whole package. Right?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Right on, man. Excellent. Well, you've got quite a rich drone history. I'm curious. I want to come back to Virtual Surveyor and the industry at large, but I'd love to get a bit on your story after getting up on your bio.
Yeah.
So well over a decade.
Yeah.
Interest, and you're basically drawn to maps early on.
Early on, it's been 15 years now, or probably longer than that, I guess. I kind of fell into it. There was always a joke at my school, was like geographers always kind of fall into this, like just haphazardly. That was true for me too, right? I think, I was like, I was just trying to find out what I wanted to do. And maps were like nice, and I found the technology aspect of it fascinating.
Yeah.
So I went to school for GIS, but then after that, was trying to figure out around, of course, I graduated 2009. Yeah, great time to graduate, right? So I was trying to figure out what I could do. I went back to grad school to stay afloat, but then also figure out, okay, what can I actually do with this, finally get a job. And I got introduced to drones and they were like, very new back then, right? Like, so we're talking 2010-ish, right?
Okay.
There wasn't DJI. I remember like the DJIs when we finally got a DJI, they were awesome because like they actually didn't crash. But we had to import them from China actually at that point, right? So it wasn't like, hey, you just go to Best Buy and buy these things. Yeah.
Much taller order.
Yeah, exactly. And so, so for me, it was kind of like, that's where my thing took off, right? Is like, I was more like remote sensing, right? Like satellites. That's actually where my initial goal was. Like, I wanted to work like satellite company. Like actually I wanted to move to Denver to like work for GOI or, Digital Globe, something like that. Never happened, but
yeah.
But it was a natural transition into drones, right? Because at that point, they're just little satellites of their own sort. So ever since then, I've been working with them and kind of far away from the GIS side now. It's been more like CAD surveying, engineering type work. But it's been fun, right? Like you get to play with all the toys and see all this different data, see, people always say, hey, I want to travel, the world, right? Well, I kind of get to do it like every day.
For sure.
Yeah. Like client sends me something, I get to see something new, different spot, like see what's happening, from the air. So
absolutely. I'm curious what you could speak to regards to, let's go DJI versus the field. I mean, right now versus when you first entered. I mean, what do you see in terms of trends? It doesn't have to be geopolitical nature per se, but just product standpoint. What are you feeling?
Oh, man. Yeah. It's hard. I don't want to be like a DJI, like super fan, right? But I mean, their stuff is great. Like you can't complain about it, right? Like they give you the best quality at the price, right?
Yeah.
We do have the complication of, like, hey, can you actually get one in the States now? Like it's actually become much, much harder and harder, right?
Yeah.
So in that way, like, there are other people that, have good products as well, right? I've worked at, like my previous job before this, SenseFly, right? That was like one of the ones that commercialized like the fixed wings, like, like to the masses, right? Like the first RTK enabled drone and all that. And you could still, like, DJI was around back then, but they weren't as big as they are now, right? So there's good ones like Wingtra, Trinity, all these other ones. Like they may, and like there's a lot of like kind of like, copter ones. The industry is going to be good, right? And like I think there's a lot of like, gives and takes on all of them, but DJI is still kind of like far and away like yeah, quality wise and price wise, the winners. So
it is kind of the ultimate at the end of the day blank. I mean, they do so much, and in terms of accessibility, even though that's a contentious point right now,
yeah,
but that what they can accomplish, yeah, it's tough to argue with results.
yeah, and it's great. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm saying yeah a lot, but essentially it's like you think of like DJI, like, and if you've interfaced with those guys, yeah, they're intense. They're really head in the game about this, right? Yep. They're really like, hey, they're hungry still, and I'm like, you guys are the market leader far and away, and you're still like acting like you're gonna die tomorrow.
How easy it would be to rest on laurals, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, they don't have it, right? And most people kind of fall on that, right? I think,
yeah,
SenseFly, yeah, was a great company, but it doesn't kind of exist at this point, right? Like, and kind of fell on its laurels, and now, now other people, Wingtra's kind of like picked up that flag, So
let's stick with drone mapping for a second. I'm curious through an industry lens, what is something, without being too contrarian, but I mean, you may think sometimes the industry largely gets wrong, and that Virtual Surveyor is trying to address, if not addressing, vehemently.
Yeah. So, and I think it's an interesting time for that question, right? Because essentially, like, when I have customers come and talk to me about, like, something that brought me to this side of it is everyone's like wants this like easy one button. Essentially, they say, okay, like the drone's almost like a one button, right? Because I can just put in like a box on a map, it goes and flies everything for me, and that's great. They kind of expect that from the data side too. And it's a very weird interaction, just in the sense like that expectation's been around over 10 years now. I remember my first job was even like people expected that, and it wasn't even like drone data. But the problem with that, and then like that expectation has gotten even worse and worse and worse with like ChatGPT and like things like that coming out in the last couple of years. Now they think, okay, like AI can do everything. And what I found, and what like, people like really need to get in their mind is like, yeah, I think maybe like people need to realize, like, can see this a little more like interactively with like ChatGPT and things like that, is these AI things, like, yeah, they may get you like, a lot of the way there, but they'll start hallucinating, they'll start doing weird things, right? And especially like in the AEC field, right? Architecture, engineering, construction, one of those little mistakes actually becomes a big problem at the end of the day. So what we try to focus on, like, where I've been trying to say, like, my part in like the whole industry is not about trying to say we're going to make it automatic and it's going to do everything, right? Because also that's not any fun. Like, we're not going to have any jobs, right? but no, like, actually is, look, we're going to create you tool sets that keeps the human in the loop. And that's actually how I found when I used ChatGPT. Like, I wasn't like, it took me a second to kind of get my head around it. But you don't just say one thing and then it gives it. It's kind of like a give and take. And you have to have a domain expertise to kind of tease out the right information a lot of the time actually from it, right? Because it'll just tell you lies. It'll do things.
Oh, for sure.
So that's what we try to do is, look, you are a surveyor, you are an engineer, you are whatever it is, right? You have some kind of domain expertise, and our software is going to help you with tools that like multiply what your effectiveness is. So it's not going to be automatic, but it's going to like let you say, okay, I need to do this aspect. Okay, there's a tool that will do it for you quickly, and then give you ways to clean that up even quickly as well.
It's almost like, it sounds like Virtual Surveyor creates a sort of compounding effect. It sounds like, in
right.
A sense,
no, it's like a force multiplier.
Yes,
that's literally it. So like, and that's where my focus has been, and also where Virtual Surveyor has been. Like, like I said, it's not about trying to automate it, because even when I see people say it's automatic, it's always like some guy in India or something, and it's like, yeah, it's AI, yeah, sure. But no, like, it's like, no, don't try to be like, the Mechanical Turk or like, the Wizard of Oz and it's all behind the curtain. No, it's like, look, we're going to tell you how the tool works, and it's going to be simple, but also like effective. And then that's going to multiply what you can do very quickly.
Great.
And that to me, that's like kind of like where the industry should be focusing it. Cause like, this is like, not like, hey, like 5 years down the road, can we do it or not? Like, no, we do this now. We've been doing it, and jobs need to be get done now. And like I said, the AI, I don't know, maybe someday they can do it. It's debatable, I think, but
I was going to ask you, my next question dealt with, and we can get as pie in the sky as we'd like, a hypothetical on just, let's call it 2030. What do you see as the best case scenario of status quo for drone mapping?
The best case
of general broad capability.
Yeah, so that's where kind of we're like in a very interesting time, like, because there's like there's a couple different factors that are kind of like coming together, right? Is even though I'm saying, hey, like, AI is not the right way to help you, like, because like essentially like it can get things wrong, but we do have to embrace it. We do have to figure out more ways to use it. You have to keep the human in the loop. That's like really my big thing about it. And here's the reason why, is because you can, the show shows it every time, is essentially like the data that's coming in just keeps getting larger and larger and larger. We're getting crazy amounts of data. Like, I think, like, 10 years ago when I was starting to do this, we could barely get a 500 megabyte, ortho freaking like done and like, working well, just through like Metashape back then, because yeah, we didn't know how to do it, but also like, computer processing, all the different things came together. It wasn't effectively able to do it very well. Now you could have, you have these, 60, all these large format cameras and everything. And the images alone could be like 100 megabytes each. So it doesn't take that much to all of a sudden overwhelm the whole system and really like, create just god awful amounts of data. And then we can talk about LiDAR and like, everything, every sensor just starts coming in and more and more and more. So you have to embrace AI to a degree, right? But that's where I'm saying, like, we can't just say it's an easy button. Like, the human has to be in the loop, and you have to always, and that's where I was like, where I use ChatGPT a lot, it's like, okay, look, I have some domain expertise. So if I start needing some information, because maybe I forgot it, or maybe I need a refresher, or maybe I just don't know, I don't trust it right away. I always like have to vet it. I'm like, does that make sense, right? Like, that's the same thing in like the AEC workflows. It shouldn't be like, hey, it just does it, and like, we're there. It's like, no, you got to make sure it did it right. Like, no one just collects with RTK, well, some do, but no surveyor just trusts RTK alone. You always have the ground checks.
Yes.
You always have to have the independent verification. So what's the best case, right? Yeah, we're going to have more sensors and more things, but I guess the best case, like, so like, I think, 2030 is not so far away. It's like more like making sure we're able to keep up with the amount of data we're bringing into the system, because that's really becoming overwhelming more and more and more. That's what I see.
The data bottleneck. Yeah. Absolutely. I love your broad, just measured approach though. I think it's, no, it's just very relevant. And I think it's just savvy. It's the approach to have as we move forward.
Well, yeah, it's also like just authentic, but also like, it works, right? Like, we know, like, you need the solution today, right? Like, you can't wait. So
totally. You're not a Luddite.
Yeah,
absolutely. Your favorite, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I love that term because like, I think, I don't know, maybe it's a joke and maybe it's not the right spot for it, but like, it's not a bad joke. It's not like off flavor, but like, I always think, surveying, because I work with a lot of surveyors and I have like my whole career, but I think they're like the most funny, like, people. Cause it's like, especially like when I was, starting with the drone stuff, they were very apprehensive about it. Like, they didn't believe like that it could do it, right? Okay, now, there's still some around, but most of them actually accept kind of like the technology aspect of it. And it's always funny because like that, like going back to the term Luddite, right, is like you have these surveyors, right? And some of them are just like absolute Luddites. And you're like, how are you a Luddite? Like, you're a person whose whole job revolves around technology.
Yeah.
And then they would fight me about the drone. And I'd be like, look, man, like, they're going to tell me the drone didn't work, or like that you can't be as accurate, whatever. Okay, like, I'm not a surveyor, I don't have a stamp, so I don't want to like dive into that so far, but I always thought it was very funny where it's like they're willing to take a GPS and like accept the magic waves from the air, and like say that's good data, but then like the drone, like, no.
My theory, and feel free to push back on this, you would obviously be much more informed. I don't want to call it, I think there's a resistance to a potential intimidating learning curve, especially when you set a drone in front of them. It's like, geez, even if it's subconscious and it's just like, okay, I want to make work with what I know and what's comfortable.
For sure. Yeah.
So
no, especially if you look at surveying, it's an older industry, but I mean but that's actually why I came. Like, okay, I've been working at Virtual Surveyor 7 years. That's why I came here originally, was because this was the bridge from that drone data, right? Because you could say, okay, the drone flies itself, it gives you amazing data, but you can't do anything with it. And then this was the thing, okay, you can actually get it into a way that they can use it, and it uses things they already know. Like, I don't have to train people. I just say, okay, sit down with me for an hour and you'll know how to use this, because I'm just going to tell you how to do what you already know how to do in a virtual environment.
Yeah.
So, well, yeah, surveying, funny guys. Like I said, it's a paradox industry to me. It's like, we're all tech, but we're anti-tech and sometimes. So
Sure. What a juxtaposition.
Yeah.
Correct me, Britton, if my homework is wrong. You play video games.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And there's a parallel you see between surveying and mapping tech and video games? Am I onto something? Is that enough of a tee up for you?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So outing myself. Yeah. I've played video games my whole life. Right. And like, it's kind of funny, the joke, like where your parents are like, what are you going to do with that? Right. Okay. But actually, I think it's played into all the things I've done. Right. Imagine like originally with the drones, right? Like, you had to fly them with a controller. Like, you don't have to do that as much now, but especially like inspection drones. Yeah. That's like motor skills and things that like I gained from that. But the other end of it, right, is like, I find, very interesting, or not interesting, but like, I find like, people, and I don't know if they play video games or not, but like thinking in 3D is actually like, it's not like 3D for us, like here, but like thinking in 3D space, like in a virtual environment is not native for people, I don't think. Because I could have simple things like, hey, like, you want to measure a stockpile or things like that. And they don't understand, like, it's not just as simple as outline it. You got to actually find like, what is, where are you measuring from and things like that.
Yeah.
And seeing this point is at this location, but also like elevated here below the pile, etc. So for me, that's actually helped like tremendously, I think, because I don't know, I guess I have a more natural inclination towards being able to like think in 3D like that, because yeah, I've done that kind of like for my whole life.
Sure.
Since my grandma bought me a Super Nintendo, right? So yeah, like to me, I think it's a good thing. And then also, like in the way, we interact at Virtual Surveyor, not trying to plug along with that so much, but
Please.
is essentially, right, like the workflow, like I said, it's not about like, hey, there's an algorithm, you just click a button or there's a million menus. It's no, you create a virtual environment and then you survey in the virtual environment like a surveyor. So if you think of a virtual environment, it's that 3D space. It's a video game, essentially. You create a video game environment, and then you're just going to be a surveyor in the video. You're going to play Virtual Surveyor. That's the name, very direct, in the video game environment, right? So yeah, for me, it was all natural and it all lined up there very well, and that's also kind of like going back, just like I said, keeping the human in the loop, right? Like, you are, right? You have the environment, but that's not actually what you want at the end of the day. You want, could be a map, could be CAD information, right? But it's not, the environment's too much, essentially. You need something else. We need to simplify this down, So
Outstanding. Last question, Britton. You can be as specific as you like, but related to the industry, Virtual Surveyor, drones, what are you most excited for 2026?
I always love all the drone stuff, right? But I've seen a lot, like, very interestingly, like these like handheld scanners. Those are like all over the place, right?
Yeah.
It's a super interesting tool. Like, I want to get my hand on one sometime, because you can do the same thing. You can create that virtual environment, right? But yeah, it's from like, it's more accessible maybe, like in some ways, right? Because the drone, like, you got to think about it. You have to, well, you don't have to, but yeah, you should. If you're going to do it for work, you got to get a 107, right? You got to do it all the proper ways. Like this thing doesn't take as much, upkeep. You just walk around and there you are. You have something, right? And you're kind of off and going. I think those are pretty neat, and then also like I've just seen, especially like over like, my career, like is this, accuracy, like, it's still something you have to focus on, right? But like the technology really bridges, like is making that much more accessible.
Yeah.
And that's really where I guess like that handheld one is kind of like my theme around that, was like the accessibility of this all.
Yes.
Which is the crazy part, right? Is like, you don't like, even like, if you think of like from a GIS perspective, you don't have to be a GIS professional anymore to make maps. You can go on ArcGIS online and make a map, right? You can go Google Maps, right? You can create all kinds of things without actually having like some kind of degree or some kind of background. And the same thing's been happening, with the whole surveying side and like things like that. And I'm not saying, hey, surveys are going away. What I'm saying is this technology is enabling people to do like all kinds of stuff, and that's actually where I've been really excited. Is like, oh, every time someone does something new, I'm like, I don't worry about myself, but I'm like, oh my God, it's like you could do anything now, so that's the amazing part. So
it's a technological gold rush. Awesome. Well, Britton, this was a trove of knowledge. Thank you so much for stopping by. Seriously, really appreciate it.
No, I appreciate it, Ellis.
Thanks, man.
All right, thanks.